Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. This is Kenya Revolutionary for another quick session. It's chilly out here, but I have to give you the content. I have to give you the content. I have to encourage you, revolutionaries, patriots, nationalists. Karibuni sana, karibuni sana. I hope you're doing well. It's cold wherever I am. I hope you're doing well, but it definitely wasn't cold. The exchange between Aden Duale or Aden Duale and Anthony Kibagendi, I believe, an MP from Kitutu Chache in Kisii County. I don't know what political party he is affiliated with, but let's talk about it. We have to talk about it. They're giving us content. It's political theater. We have to talk about it. Really. Now, karibuni sana. Let me get through with the formalities. If this is your first time on this channel, my name is Kenya Revolutionary. I talk about Kenyan politics and world politics as it relates to Kenya. I'm Namna Gani. So if you like that kind of content, go ahead and like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the good stuff, and share it with your friends so they know about this channel. You can follow me on X too, okay? If you're already subscribed to my YouTube channel, you know the first order of business is to do what? Like the video immediately. Don't wait. Let's get to it. Here it is. So I think by now you've actually seen, or you're actually seeing what's happening between the exchange between Aden Duale and Kibagendi. For those of you who haven't watched, you're still behind, and you're going to watch this thing later. The video clip of these two folks. I think it was a committee of some sort or whatever, and they were talking about Shah or whatever the case is. I don't know the nature of what was going on, but apparently this gentleman, MP Kibagendi, Anthony Kibagendi, okay, he had enough of Aden Duale. It was actually funny though. It was funny. Interesting, let me say. Interesting to say the least. And for some, I don't know what's triggered him, because his exchange from the clip that I watched, the chairperson who was chairing the whole meeting, committee, whatever the case is, he kept on trying to tell Kibagendi to ease up on Aden Duale for some reason. I don't know why. And Kibagendi felt kind of like Aden Duale was running the show, the meeting, while Aden Duale, I think, was supposed to be, explaining some things about the healthcare system in Kenya. For those of you, I mean, if you're in Kenya or you're abroad, you already know the SHA or the whatever health system that we have in Kenya is not working for majority of Kenyans, okay? People pay into this SHA, but when they go to the hospital and they look for, they use their SHA cards, whatever the case is, the healthcare card, it's not working, all right? So everybody has been complaining about this. And there was also controversy of, people, while, when the auditing was happening, some kind of audit was happening, the government, Aden Duale was telling us that billions were being allocated to some healthcare centers that were ghost healthcare centers. They would say there's a healthcare center somewhere in Moyale, and when you go to verify where that healthcare center is, there's actually no building over there. And they were telling us that, a couple of millions were allocated to that, specific healthcare center. So these are the kind of things that actually were driving Kenyans crazy. And Shah has been, they're receiving a lot of money. So this is part of the frustration that probably was built up, pent up anger inside Kibagendi. And he expressed it the best way he knows how. And so he stood up and there was like, he told Aden Duale, Aden Duale, you are not going to come here and intimidate us or feed us some bull crap, okay? Even if you're close Ruto's friend, the president's friend, I'm not intimidated. You have been stealing money from Shah, which is an astounding accusation for an MP to make against a CS, which is Kenya. I mean, Kenya people can throw us the way they do. Aden Duale in his response was like, "Oh, I'm going to write to the, whatever, the Speaker of the House, Mr. What's his name? The guy who was selling gold in UAE. I forgot his name. I'm going to write to him, and not only that, if you keep on saying that I've been stealing money from Shah, I'll have you prove, that in the court of law. So wash your mouth. But Katende did not heed to that threat or whatever, veiled threat or whatever, that warning. He kept on. He was like, I don't care. I'm not scared of you. I'm not intimidated by you. You are stealing money from Shah. That's the bottom line. I don't care if you're Ruto's friend. You are not going to come run this meeting and feed us all this bull crap about Shah. You are stealing Shah money. So anyway, eventually they had to ask Kibagendi to leave the house, the room, or whatever the case is, okay? Which he left. So while this is entertaining political theater, I think there's a bigger bigger point here, okay? There's a bigger picture in what's happened here. And it is something that's what I want to like kind of zero in. Not the drama itself, but what this is a sign of. What is it a sign of? I'm your political dietitian. I'll give you the nutrients that you need to strengthen your intellectual muscles and your way of perceiving politics in Kenya and the world, so you can kind of help you make better choices in life, okay? So tune in here. Let me tell you what this means, okay? If we get to a point where there's this, now let me call it a Kenyan fatigue, people are tired. People are sick and tired of the system in place. Nothing is working. This is a sign, a classic sign of a failed state. Write that down. Write that down. Did you hear me? From the people in the back, can you hear me? Grab a pen and a pencil or whatever the case is in the writing material. This is a classic sign of a failed state. Kenya is a failed state. I know if you are Dennis Itumbi, you're probably going to sit there and say, what are you talking about? We still have a functioning parliamentary system, whatever the case is, legislative body. We have some judges, we have the judiciary, we have the executive branch, we have some CSs in place. No. Those are just individuals occupying offices with titles. Nothing is working to serve the people. Administratively, nothing is working in Kenya to serve the people, while the people are paying taxes in expecting to be served by these elected individuals. You understand what I'm saying? I like a piece that somebody wrote where he differentiated the difference between a failed state and failed society. Kenya is not a failed society. We haven't broken down as a society, even though you can argue that, the societal norms that we are adopting from the Western countries and other places kind of are eroding our natural indigenous values. But that's not where I'm here to argue about. That's not where I'm taking you with this. I want you to concentrate on what actually transpired between Aden Duale, who is the CS of Health, who previously was the CS of Interior or whatever, security and all that stuff, but now is the Interior or whatever, CS of Health, and the MP of Tatu Chache, whatever the case is, Tutu Chache from Kisii County. I don't know what political party he's affiliated with, but that's not important at this point, okay? What I'm trying to show you that, and I illustrate it further, okay? This is a sign that Kenya is a failed state. You might be asking yourself, what do you mean a failed state? A failed state, in a simple terms, okay? I'm not giving you a dictionary definition of it, but I'm just giving you the layman's understanding of what a failed state is. A failed state is when the state, the republic, the administrative part of government cannot function due to several reasons. Maybe because it's presided over by criminals, as it is in the case of Kenya, incompetent individuals, as it is in the case of Kenya, or external factors, which may not necessarily be the case in Kenya. Okay, we are influenced externally by Western governments, okay, as far as our policies are concerned, but that is not enough for it to be a failed state. It is a failed state. Kenya is a failed state because we have not only incompetent individuals holding administrative positions, and not only are they incompetent, they are thoroughly, helplessly, irredeemably corrupt criminals. You understand what I'm saying? So if you have individuals like Aden Duale and Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, what do you expect? If you're following me on X, you can see I also retweeted a video of this lady from Pokot. And she was actually really speaking from her heart, her frustrations of how one of their own was killed by the police up there. And the kind of, animosity that she's receiving from the police force when she was asking for answers. Okay? Now, the number one reason why I'm telling you that this is a sign and a symptom of a failed state in Kenya, by giving the example of Aden, Duale, and Kibagendi, is we are reaching a point where people are emboldened enough, people are bold enough to start confronting. They're starting to confront these public officials over their bullcrap stories, their incompetence, their lies, their thievery with wow. Because listen, when we had previous governments, let me just use Uhuru Kenyatta, for example, okay? Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, all right? Uhuru Kenyatta's administration was facing the same thing. Even Kibaki, even Moi. But let me just start with Uhuru Kenyatta, okay? His first term, tenure. And he had Ruto as his deputy. Remember that? They started messing up. And Kenyans were seeing this, and people were speaking about it, but they were not as vocal, and they were not as confrontational about it. They were not telling Michuk in his face that, hey, listen, we don't like this, or whatever the case is. I'm just using an example. They were not telling Matiang'i in his face that, hey, this is not working. You are stealing. You're doing that, okay? People were still on that, let's sit back and watch if they're going to turn it around, or if something will improve, or somebody will say something, okay? The discussions were happening, even in the Mtandao. There were forums. I've been part of a bunch of forums back then when I was, having discussions about what's going on, okay? So this has been happening, but not to this point, okay? Because remember, a state does not fail overnight. It takes time. It goes through stages in order for it to get to a point where everything stops, and that's when revolution happens. Not elections, revolution. But listen to me, stick with me for a minute, okay? In that Uhuru Kenyatta example. So I was saying that during Uhuru Kenyatta, these were happening, it was happening, but Kenyans believe that, okay, it's becoming a mess. When we moved away from Kibaki was, finished his tenure, then we had Uhuru and Ruto. But when these guys came in, and things started getting worse, and Kenyans are really patient, okay? And Kenyans are naturally, we are not, they don't react mara moja, or tokangi tu hapo, hey, things are bad, so then let's stand burn things down. Okay, Kenyans are very, very, patient and also reticent. Okay, watu wameogopa kuongea. People whisper, but when they reach a point where it's the boiling point, you cannot tell them anything. But let me just walk you through that. So the first 5 years of Uhuru Ruto, the things were getting messy, really bad. So come 2017, everyone was holding out, saying, you know what? Watu wamemaliza those 5 years, 2017 tunawatoa, because the economy and the level of looting and all this stuff that is happening, we are going to take them out in 2017, right? So come 2017, we know what happened. Tulienda elections, Uhuru rigged himself, and you saw the reaction. You saw the reaction after Uhuru rigged himself in, because people were tired of Uhuru Ruto. Absolutely done. But they were holding out, not confronting his CSs and his members of the cabinet, because in the hopes of taking him out in 2017. Okay? And we were fooled by Raila Odinga that, 2017 he's going to win and he will, bring a new way of governance. He will govern differently from Uhuru and Ruto. Okay? But 2017, we saw after Uhuru rigged himself, okay, and lost the elections. We know he lost. You saw the reaction. The people in the ground decided to actually choose Raila Odinga as the people's president. This was done not to spite Ruto. It was done it was a way of expressing the frustration, the rejection, the total rejection. It was a referendum on Uhuru Ruto's 5 years of rule, of mess, of mismanagement of Kenya. Okay? That was what it was all about. So everyone was like, we if you do not want to cede power, if you are going to declare yourself president or say you're a winner and we know you've rigged the elections, we are going to put Raila Odinga as the people's president. And people went to Uhuru Park and did what they did. Now, Raila was still fooling majority of Kenyans at that point. Conman Raila Piringenyu mwenyewe. Okay? Thank you so much, Don Kim. Nice seeing you. Okay? So, majority of the people still had faith in Raila Odinga. They still thought Raila Odinga was actually fighting for them, was the representation of their struggle, was the guy who had the silver bullet. Okay? So that's why they went out there and did what they did. So when Raila turned his back and had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, that's the day that Raila officially lost his legitimacy as the representation of Kenyan opposition. That's the day, because that's the day he lost majority of his following, because the people of Kenya were so tired of the looting of public resources, lawlessness, and every kind of criminal activities that were being committed against the Kenyan people under Uhuru Ruto in the first 5 years, to a point where they were willing to express themselves, their sovereign power, directly by declaring Raila Odinga the people's president at Uhuru Park. But Raila committed the unforgivable, forbidden sin and turned his back on majority of Kenyans who believed in him as that guy who was always a reformist, the guy who would take them to what? Canaan, as he always told his supporters. So when he turned and had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, that's when a majority of his supporters left him too. And they knew that this guy doesn't have their interests at heart. So here it is. We moved forward under Uhuru Ruto, and everyone walikuwa natulia because Raila now, this guy, had pacified the opposition, the people, his supporters. Because some people, some of his supporters still believed in him. There were people making silly arguments that, oh, you know, Raila in his wisdom will find a way of turning things and making things better, even within Uhuru Ruto's regime. But Raila went mum, never say nothing. Okay? Alikuwa bubu. The corruption, extrajudicial killings, everything was happening. You know, the lawlessness was continuing, and Raila, after the handshake, never said anything. Okay? Up until 2022. Now, Ruto saw this, and Ruto pretended that he had a Damascus moment, and all of a sudden, he was Paul. He came out and said, oh, you know what? It's dynasty versus hustlers. Okay? And he repackaged himself as this guy who is going to fight for the wananchi. So some people bought his bull crap again. We fell for the okie-doke. And we went with Ruto, thinking that, okay, he's a hustler now. See how he was being mistreated by Uhuru? Uhuru ameshikana na Raila. Oh, so afadhali huyu Ruto, hata kama alikuwa nakula na nani, aliua watu in 2007 and 8 after post-election violence, but he's a hustler. Let's vote for him. Unlike those rich folks, wakina Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta. See the trick that they are doing? But everyone Kenyan was tired of the continuation of the extrajudicial killings, lawlessness, okay, ukabila, the looting, all that stuff. Okay? So here we are. 2022 comes. Ruto is voted in. Okay? Raila lost. Raila lost. There's no if and buts about it. He lost. He lost because, like I told you, once he had that handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, he lost half of his following, and people started seeing him as a con man. And it didn't help his cause when he forcefully conspired to exile people like Miguna and others who were actually helping him politically, okay, stay relevant, okay? So he lost his legitimacy with the people as this representation of the people's struggle. All right? So come 2022, no one was trying to hear Raila Odinga, okay? No one was trying to hear Raila Odinga. Ruto seemed more appealing because he actually controlled the narrative. He posed this question, hustler or dynasty? I'm a hustler, those are dynasty. I'm a son of nobody, they're son of somebody. Let's run against these dynasties who have been looting Kenyan dry. While me, the son of this chicken seller, I will help you guys come up just like I did. You can, if I can do it, you can do it. And people bought that. So here we are. Ruto comes in. This is still a continuation of the what? The eroding, looting of public resources, the decaying of a country, failure of public structures that are supposed to safeguard the rights of Kenyans, serve the Kenyan people. But 10 years in, 15 years in, 20 years in, it is still a procession, a progression of this looting and weakening of public structures that are designed to protect the Kenyan citizens from power, excessive power. The judiciary, the legislative body, the people who are supposed to be doing the checks and balances, the independent bodies, okay? They are being what? Weakened, compromised, bought off. You see what I'm saying? To a point where we are right now under Ruto, who we believed was a hustler, Now he's proving that he doesn't care about hustlers. He's actually joined forces with the so-called dynasties. As we saw his meeting with Uhuru Kenyatta and Gideon Moi and Raila Odinga. And he's not even ashamed of it. And he's telling you now a new lie that, hey, listen, me coming together with the dynasties that I was demonizing 3 years ago, we together, we are now going to help move Kenya to a what? To a first world country. While he was telling us that this same Neo dynasty are the reasons why we are poor. Now he's telling us these are guys, me joining forces with them will help you go to a what? A first class country. You see the lie? It's a continuation. So this thing has been happening progressively, not only since Uhuru Ruto, but it started with Kibaki and Moi before that. Kibaki was a stopgap. For a good 2 years, he did some good things. Free education, kind of brought the taxes down, improved the economy, started working on the infrastructure, but then lost his way, in 2005. You see what I'm saying? So these have been happening progressively. And if you notice, listen to me very carefully. If you notice, throughout the years, we often learn, remember those ridiculous, those guys working whatever, Ambani, whatever, I forgot his name. Those Kamodo, the so-called Kamodo, ridiculous. That's those comedians. When they came out, people were amazed on how, majority of Kenyans were amazed how far we've become, where we can actually make fun of these political figures, these public figures, the president, whatever the case. There was a point where people could not do that. Okay? But you have to understand, the more the society, the state is failing, the more vocal the Kenyan public becomes, citizens can become. The more these institutions are weakened, are not functioning, because people complain, okay? People complain, we say, economy mbaya, things are hard. We started by whispering during Moi era. Tulikuwa tuna whisper, talking about be what you, before you say the name be what you, mpaka uangalie left, right and center kama kuna mtu hapo, because you are scared, unaweza kupotea. Then we came through Kibaki's time, when we could actually say, Kibaki's name in front of the marketplace and not fear about getting arrested. Of course, you would be careful what you say, but you could actually say it in public. Then we came to Uhuru's regime, Uhuru Ruto, where you can say, Uhuru ni mlevi, okay? Yes, depending on where you are, you can still get killed or arrested or abducted, but you could say it. Now we are in Ruto's regime, we can actually say F Ruto. Of course, again, depending on where you say it and where you are, the context, you can still get lost, but we can speak boldly, because it's progressively getting worse. It has never gotten better. So now we are in a point where people are so tired of the lies, and they can see through the nonsense by this political class, to a point where they are not afraid of telling them in their faces, like Kibagendi did to Aden Duale. Can you imagine in the mid-1990s or early 1990s, late 80s, can you imagine a citizen telling Joseph Kamotho, you're useless, you're stealing money from the education sector, the 844 is not working? Can you imagine if that will happen then? Even if you're an MP, that is something you can never think about. You can never imagine that could happen in the late 80s, early 90s. See what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is this: the more things get worse, the more desperate and bold people speak against the regime of the day. And that is the point where we are. Kibagendi, I'm pretty sure he honestly was tired of what was going on. Maybe he was acting. I don't know. I can't speak if he was genuinely sick and tired of Duale's Ninio, or he was just acting. But I feel like it was authentic. I think he was sick of what's going on, and he had to speak it. Okay? He was bold enough to tell Aden Duale in his face, tell him, you are stealing from Shah. We know you are doing this. We know you are the president's friend, but we don't care. I'll tell you there, I'm not scared. You can go to court. You can go to tell the speaker in the house. You can tell whoever you want. I'm telling in your face that we are sick and tired of your lies. We are sick and tired of your looting of Shah. Shah is not working. And that's why I'm telling you, this is a sign of a failed state. Now, and that's why you see people can speak, go and mtandao. And let me say one more thing. For those of you who are saying that our Gen Z, they're only speaking on mtandao, they only speak on X, I have news for you, buddy. You're in for a shock. I told you, this is a progression. It is happening progressively. Pole pole. It's building up. It will move from the mtandao to the ground very soon. Very soon. Mtandao is just a kamkunji, a virtual kamkunji. Because we know if the Gen Z say tukutane ni Uhuru Park tukaongea hizi maneno, Ruto will send his police and will disperse everyone with the tear gases and rubber bullets and all that stuff, even live bullets. So mtandao is the place where it starts. The ideas start at the mtandao. You understand what I'm saying? Ndio maana unaona wanaweka picha za Ruto, they're saying whatever they're saying to Ruto about Ruto and all this stuff in mtandao. But this, the next step, it will be brought in the streets. But when it gets to the streets, they will not be gathering to the streets to have a discussion with you, Aden Duale or Ruto. That's not what they by the time they hit the streets, it will not be up for a discussion. That is what you have to understand. Ikifika kwa street ni action. What action? Revolution. Now, if the reports that the number of people registering to vote is low, if it's true that there's voter registration apathy, if I am Ruto, I'd be worried. If that is true. If I'm the member of the political class, I'd be worried. If I am a member, how can Aden Duale na Ruto and Uhuru and Raila and Martha Karua and Gachagua and all these people. If I'm employing this aggressive campaign of Chukweni Kura, and I see these Gen Zs are not interested in registering to vote, especially because they feel and they know that the system is compromised. They do not have trust in the electoral process. I have to be worried. And I think Ruto is worried. Why do you think he donned an army fatigue today? Somewhere, he was in Eldoret, whatever the case is, where he was wearing that army outfit. I think he watched that Madagascar army folks in Madagascar. And he was like, you know what? Let me go touch base with my commanders to make sure that they are loyal to me, because something seems to be brewing underground, if you know what I mean. Something might be brewing underground, if you know what I mean. Because there's an aggressive campaign trying to convince these young folks to go out there and register to vote. But they don't seem to be interested. They do not trust the system. They don't trust the IBC. So going back to what I'm saying about Kibagendi and Aden Duale, if we reach a point where these public figures, members of this administration, politicians, are being confronted in their faces, being told this bullshit does not work. Know that we are a few steps before we get to the streets for a popular revolution. I'm telling you, Kenyan revolution is going to happen. Whether it's before 2027, after or during, it's coming. E-election is not going to mean anything. It's not going to stop the revolution that's coming, because the people, the majority of the people, majority of them being young folks, educated, well aware, well informed, knowledgeable enough, who understand the game that is being played by the political class. They understand that hii ni mchezo wa town, and the political class have exhausted everything in their arsenal, every weapon, every trickery. The last trick was Raila Odinga. They're trying to use Raila Odinga again by faking he's sick somewhere in wherever, in India or whatever the case is, Australia, UAE, and he has announced that yanakuja kutuambia kitu. Who cares what he has to tell the people? He has proven time to time again that he's not interested in Kenya's struggle. He's an opportunist, a broker, conman thiringenye ayatondo poda, who has been exposed time after time again. Raila does not enjoy the popularity that he used to. Okay? No one cares what he did before, because he has proven to be an apologist for this colonial system. He's part of it. He's in the front line in defense of this colonial system that is not working in Kenya. So this time round, if there's going to be a popular revolution, a revolt against this Ruto administration and the political class, there's no way Raila will come to the streets with his supporters and try to stop it. Because even his supporters are seeing through him. They don't believe him anymore. Nothing will save you this time, President Ruto. The political class too. So Kibagendi and the Aden and Duale exchange is a clear sign of a failed state. Nothing is working, and it has reached a point where people are now going to start confronting these public officials face to face, telling them, you are full of shit. That's the next step we are in. Remember when people were thinking about waanze kwenda kwa manyumba ya MPs and all these politicians? It's coming progressively. Nawaambia. Ndio maana nawaambia, if it's true that there's voter apathy, especially in the registration of hii mambo ya kuchukua kura, hakuna mtu anataka kwenda kuchukua kura, then if I am member of the political class, if I am Ruto, I have something bigger to worry about. I have to be really worried. Because if these young folks do not want to vote, then what do they want? What do they have up their sleeve? My CSs are being confronted wazi hadharani, wakiambiwa acheni wizi, nyinyi ni waizi, you have nothing to tell us. Like Kibagendi was was telling Duale, enda kotini ukitaka, you are stealing from SHA. Hakuna kitu natuambia hapa. What are you telling us? It's a sign now. Now we have started confronting them face to face, fearlessly. Ndio maana nawaambia, again, I will emphasize this point. For those of you who are saying ati hawa majenzi wanapiga tu makelele kwa mtandao, get on your knees and say, Mungu, thank you so much. You have confined them into mtandao. Because when that conversation transfers from the virtual world, meta world, ikuje kwa ground, by the time ifike kwa ground, there will be no discussion. There will be no discussion. Ni kuhama. Utahama Kenya. Wewe ambao unafikiri Gen-Z wanazungumza kwa X, wakifika kwa ground, there'll be no talking. It's either unahama Kenya ama unachomwa. Unachomwa. I'm telling you. No, committee will be, watch a committee quiet. There's no need of having a committee. I want to emphasize this point, ladies and gentlemen. You know, the reason also why I like this Kibagendi and Aden Duale exchange, it is something that Kenyans naturally are not used to. Okay? While we find it entertaining, the content, but it's something that we are not used to. Not used to in this sense. Hear me out. Every time we have a crisis, we do have a crisis, whether it's like an economic crisis, whether it's a crisis in lack of security, whether it's extrajudicial killings, tribalism, there's some kind of, there's a problem. Let me just say that, okay? When we are faced with some kind of challenges in Kenya, we tend not to diagnose or identify the problem at hand. We do not. We like going around the problem. We don't say, this is the problem. How can we deal with it? We go around it. I'll give you an example. During Uhuru's tenure, or even this president, Ruto, when the president makes a decision that is not popular with the people, you hear these political chatterboxes, chatterheads, when they go to this Githeri media having a discussion, instead of saying, the president has made a wrong decision, they start saying, the people around the president are giving him wrong advice. What they're forgetting, they're trying to protect the president instead of squarely pointing a finger at the president, because the buck stop with the president. The final decision is the president's to make. Wacha nieleze story nyingine. Let me give you another one. The problem in Kenya, we misdiagnose what is ailing us. I will say it again. The problem in Kenya, we misdiagnose what is ailing us. We are quick to name the symptoms and the signs of what is ailing us, but we cannot diagnose our problem. Listen to all these idiots that are talking about Chukweni Kura Mkapige Kura 2027. Listen to them. They're very stupid indeed. And I have no apologies to make by saying that. If you think taking a Kura is the solution 2027, you're very stupid indeed. And I have no time for you. I'll tell you why. Because you fail to think. Listen to me. The problem, the Kenyan problem, cannot be solved by voting out Ruto and exchanging him for Maraga or Okiya Mtata or Raila Odinga or Martha Karua or Matiang'i or Gachagua or Kalonzo or Eugene Wamalwa or Musalia Mudavadi. You cannot solve the Kenyan problem by going to the ballot and choosing these idiots that are running for president, these charlatans, criminals, hardened criminals like Jimmy Wanjigi and the rest. Voting Ruto out of government will not solve the Kenyan problem. You understand? If you think going to 2027 and voting Ruto out will solve the problem of SHA, will solve the problem of high taxes, will solve the problem of debt, will solve the problem of extrajudicial killing, will solve the problem of corruption, you are very stupid. You are very stupid, and please, go dive in Indian Ocean or Lake Victoria. Free up the traffic so people who are useful can endelea with life. I have no apologies to make from this. You have to, you have to be serious. We've had different personalities. Jomo personality was a different personality from Moi. Moi was a different personality from Kibaki. Kibaki was a different personality from Uhuru. Uhuru had a different personality from Ruto. But something remains constant. The same problems that we are facing during Jomo is actually exacerbated in 2025 under the rule of Ruto. Nothing has changed during all these idiots that have been ruling this country. And you've been voting, and you've been showing up. Sindio, sinukona vote. Weren't you voting those days? 1992, mlienda voting ninyo, mkavote. 1997, mlienda mkavote. Okay? 2002, mlienda mkavote. 2013, mlienda mkavote. 2017, mlienda mkavote. 2022, mlienda mkavote. Then why are you complaining that still things haven't changed since 1963? So what makes you think voting again in 2027 will change your conditions? Stupid idiot. Chukweni kura ka vote. Chukweni kura. Obviously, doing the same things is the definition, and getting the same results is the definition of what? Insanity. So if you've been voting since those years I've mentioned and nothing is changing, then something has to be wrong. Take a seat back and look what's going on. Why is it that we are voting these different individuals with their different political parties and different political players? As a matter of fact, they're not even different. They're the same folks. Because the people who are in Moi's cabinet are still in Kibaki's cabinet. They're still in Uhuru's cabinet. They're still in Ruto's cabinet. Nothing has changed. So you have to sit back. If you're doing the same thing and nothing is changing, you sit back and look and see what is the problem. You see what is the problem. Why is this thing not working? Why am I not showing the results that I desire? So obviously it is not this. Okay, the problem is these individuals, they're different, but we're still having the same results. Okay? Look at the elections. Are they usually free, fair, verifiable? That's number one. The people counting this, presiding over the electoral process, are they people who are honorable? People who I can trust? What about the laws that we have in place? Because Kenya is not a lawless, the republic, it's supposed to be a republic. Why is Kenya? We have laws. Why are they not being respected or enacted or enforced? We know Kenyatta family have been stealing since they came into Kenya, Moi family has been stealing. There are laws that say if you steal, there's consequences to that. You get jailed. Why have those laws never been enacted, enforced? Everyone is talking about Sonko, sijui anauza unga, Kabogo, Sonko, Sakaja is stealing in Nairobi. All these governors. And their laws, what does the Constitution say? Article 226, subsection 5. It says any public official who have held office in the past and present, and even in the future, if they're found that they have misappropriated public funds, they're liable to pay for that money. They're liable. Why hasn't Jomo Kenyatta, everyone who was in Jomo Kenyatta's cabinet, Moi's cabinet, Kibaki's cabinet, Uhuru's cabinet, Ruto's cabinet, why haven't they been brought into books and pay for the money that they stole? We are being told by Jimmy Wanjigi, the debt inakuja na ifiki hata Kenya, consolidated fedha inapelekwa private banks. Why can't we follow up and have those people return that money and be taken to committee and executed? We are being told there's juris pesa by Abdi Nasir, Grand Mola. Why have those judges still sitting at the bench, adjudicating on matters? Why? Why is Ruto and Raila coming up together, illegally forming the IBC, picking their friends and girlfriends and their baby daddies and baby mamas and their side pieces to preside over the next electoral process, elections? Why is the law not enforced? But you're sitting there and then tukachukue kura. And then tukachukue kura. Wakati ni sasa, vijana and then tukachukue kura. You're stupid. You're very stupid. You're very stupid if you're saying chukueni kura. Why is the parliament not working? Why can't... Hold on, listen, I have a good one. Why can't we recall even Esther Passaris? We cannot recall Esther Passaris. Forget Ruto. Wacheni Ruto. Leave Ruto for a minute. We cannot even recall Esther Passaris. And you're going to chukua kura to remove Ruto. And you're very confident that unaenda kutoa Ruto. No, think. We've tried the voting. I'm telling you, to vote. For me personally, I don't know if there was there election before 1992. I think there was. I don't know. I wasn't old enough. I know there was election in 92, 97, 2002, 2013, 2017, 2022. We've tried the voting way. Idiots like Amenya coming up and telling us that the ballot is a revolutionary toolkit. Wawapi? Toolkit wendi walitengeneza. This paid shrill. No. Think about it. I want you to think. Msikue watu ambao mnasukumwa na hawa wajinga wanatuambia ati sijui endeni kachukue kura. You have to ask the question, why unatuambia tukachukue kura? While you guys cannot follow. You can't even recall Esther Passaris and you want to go vote out Ruto. But that's why I'm telling you, I'm not giving up. I haven't given up. And I'm actually optimistic that there's coming a revolution in Kenya. It's coming. And no one is going to... This is God ordained. This is going to be a God-ordained revolution. I'm telling you, this is not even mankind that is going to lead this. Now, the Aden Duale Kibagendi exchange is a classic example of a failing state. Administratively, Kenya has failed to deliver to the people of its residents, the indigenous people of Kenya. cannot find service. It has failed. SHA has failed. There's no infrastructure in place. There's no security. Go to my ex page and look at that mama who Pokota, the way she was talking. She was boldly telling those politicians the same. She was even bolder than Kibagendi. And this is a regular woman, hata si ati MP ama sijui nini. Boldly. She had the heart of a lioness. Now, she was talking knowing that her life could be dead. And she was speaking. Na nyinyi mafala mnaenda hapo ati mnaanza kusema ati endeni kachukue kura. Kura ya nani? Unaenda kupigia nani? Gachagua? Who are you going to vote for? Jimmy Wanjigi? Kalonzo? Matiangi, who was dumping bodies in River Yala? And you'll be expecting Kenya to be a first world country. Mko sawa? Huh? Kenya is a failed state. In a failed state where administratively everything has failed, you do not go to the ballot box saying that I'm going to vote for this president so he can bring what? Look at all these presidential candidates. They're all corrupt and they're criminals. Corrupt. Close allies of William Samoei Ruto, Uhuru, Raila. Now wewe unaenda kuweka a piece of paper with your name on it. Go to my X page again. Go look at that young man who said he went to register to vote, and there was an MCA. Listen to me. This is another example. There was an MCA who was there, was paying people. Now ukivote, ukisha register, ukisema ati unavote because you're supposed to write where you're going to vote. Pale utaenda kuninio, kuvote, the area that you're going to cast your vote on the election day, your constituency, whatever the case is. So when he went there and register, kuangalia just to double check. When he double check, he could not find his name. Akaenda kauliza, ka find out that he ameregistiwa kuvote in a place where this MCA was paying people to waende wakavote huko. An example of how they've started manipulating the voter registration process. But wewe bado unapiga makelele hapo unasema chukweni vote like Eric Omondi, that idiot. Chukweni kura. Very stupid. Actually, let me take that back. They're not stupid. They're actually paid to manipulate you. They're paid to do what? To manipulate you. They're not stupid. They're paid to manipulate because listen to me. And let me finish with this because I don't want to stay here past one hour. The problem also, part of the problem of Kenya, is that these political posts, these public offices, we've made it in such a way, listen to me, they made it in such a way that it's a lucrative way of earning a lot of money, creating an atmosphere of corruption by doing backdoor deals so you can become a billionaire. Such that every young person does not dream of becoming a doctor or a lawyer or a fireman or an architect or an artist. Every young man is dreaming of becoming an MCA, MP, senator, president, governor, because they know mimi nataka nipate hiyo cheo, nipewe SUV, bendera iko hapo, red carpet, naitwa mheshimiwa, and I argue on Githeri media and people clap when I speak. So everyone and everybody wants to be a politician. What is the solution? I keep telling people, I'll give you a solution, because people say, oh, nyinyi mnakupenda complain hakuna solution. Number one, you have to identify the number one problem, the underlying number one problem in Kenya is the lack of respect for the rule of law. Laws exist, but they're not enforced, and they apply only on some people. Some people hao wamewachwa hao ninio. So, you have to enforce the law. Enforcing the law will solve the problem of ugatuzi, corruption. How we our revenue, how we collect our revenue, how we distribute the wealth that we have, the national wealth. It will help how we make our budget. It will bring back the money that has been stolen since 1963, since Jomo Kenyatta's administration to Ruto's Ninio. And let me tell you something. To solve the problem of corruption, okay, you have to use the law to execute. Execute. Let me use the layman term so you can understand execute. Hang, kata shingo, nyonga, ua, the people who have stolen from the public coffers. I'll give you an example if you think this does not work. China used to be as corrupt as Kenya. But when they went and saw what Japan was doing, they changed their mind. They understood that production was the key, the backbone of any economy. And they understood production goes hand to hand with infrastructural development. So they understood that they have to produce more and improve their infrastructure. And in order to do these things, they have to raise money. And in order to raise money, they have to make sure that the money they have that they are going to use to do all these things have to be safe in the hands of people who will not steal. And they put in laws that will be enforced, okay? Laws that will mean that if you steal from public coffers, money that is supposed to go to help in increase of production and infrastructural development, you'll be facing death penalty if you're caught and you are found guilty. Once they started executing the people who are stealing money from the public coffers, it freed up millions and trillions of money. It increased production, which led to industrialization of China, which brought a lot of people into the job market, working in factories, whether it's service-based economy or ile mkazi za mkono, and infrastructures, engineers. If you graduate as an engineer, unaenda unawekwa kazi. Go look at the roads in China. Their infrastructure is better than the American infrastructure. They're way ahead of them. They're the global leading economic superpower as we speak in 2025. Go look at China. But the backbone of it is still, they had great plan, but it had to be safeguarded by serious laws that were put in place to guarantee that no one should violate it. And if you violate and stole money from the public, wanakuua. That's why unaona China, hakuna watu kama Uhuru Kenyatta who are above the law. They're like gods. Or Raila Odinga. Or the Jimmy Wanjigis. Or William Samoei Ruto. Or Gideon Moi. There's nothing like that. Everybody. That's why they had to, they were able to take millions of their population up the social economic ladder because of the laws in place were enforced. Hata kama ulikuwa mtoto wa chief, mtoto wa president, hata kama wewe ni Rachel Ruto, ama wewe ni sijui nani, whatever his son is, Gideon Moi, ama Jomo or Muhoho, if you're found guilty of misappropriating public funds, ulikuwa unanyongwa. Na kuna if then about it. 30 days unapewa to repeal. Ukipatwa guilty unachinjwa. My friend, ukinyonga watu watatu, niambie tu leo. Let me give you an example. Ukinyonga Raila, unyonge Uhuru Kenyatta, unyonge Kalonzo, unyonge Ruto, unyonge Gachagua, unyonge Matiang'i. What do you think hao wengine watafanya nini? Watarudisha pesa overnight na wakimbie. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Lakini nyinyi mnaenda kuchukua kura. So how do we get out of this? I know you might saying, okay, come out to win the election, but say what are we going to do? How are we going to get our leaders if we don't go to elections? Good question. How did Nepal get their leaders after the Gen Z movement? I won't go further than that. I'll just tell you that. The initiative has to be a popular initiative. Remember why we stopped Nani Kenyatta from Ninio, from forcing that BBI down our throats? The courts decided that it wasn't a people initiated Ninio agenda. Ilikuwa agenda ambayo imetoka State House na Raila na Uhuru. Yeah? So the people have to express their sovereign power directly. It's in the Constitution. It's legal. Article 1, subsection 2, kasome mbwa. You'll see it there. It's not illegal. Tuende tutoe tuambie Ruto ametoke. Now wanasiasa wote hawa jinga wako kwa legislative body wote. From Sifuna Babu Owino to Ndindi Nyoro, Siju Nyororo, whatever the fuck his name is. Wote. Then we have an interim government that shall be governed by governed by the Constitution. Jimmy Wanjigi tutakunyonga. Uhuru tunakunyonga. Gideon Ruto Raila tunakunyonga. We are giving you 30 days, urudisha hizo mali yote umeiba. TGR report tutafungua. Waki report, all the reports tutafungua. Na iseme inasema nini? One by one tunawanyonga. No, we shall be nice. We shall be nice. Tutakupatia option. Your assets will be frozen, all of it. Urudisha ile mali yote na bank accounts zote ambao za Switzerland zote. Ukikataa kuzirudisha tunakunyonga. Live. Tena tunakunyonga 20 minutes, tunakupatia 20 minutes urudishe hiyo maneno. Ukikataa tunakunyonga. Everybody, hata familia yako tunawauliza kama walikula hiyo pesa, unanyongwa. Anyway, let me now get beside myself. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, in summation, Kibagendi versus Aden Duale is a sign of a failed state. We've reached a point where we are having, it's called Kenyan fatigue. We are tired of the lies. We are tired of this nonsense. It's not about drama. It's about people standing up and telling these people, the folks in their faces, that, hey, we are tired of your bullshit. Your time is up. And we are not going to take that vote, kura. We are removing you through popular revolution. It's in the Constitution. Article 1, subsection 2. The people can either express their sovereign power indirectly or directly. We've tried indirectly through these public officials, and they've refused and told us that they've shown us their middle finger. So guess what? We are going to exercise our power directly by demanding that all of the administration, Ruto's administration, legislative body, and everybody else leave, resign. Then we shall have an interim government in preparation for a real election. Okay? Anyway, my name is Kenya Revolutionary. I'm glad you are here. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the good stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace and blessings, and I'll see you later. I'm out.